Please take your seats, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners for November. We will begin the meeting with roll call. Larry?
Mr. D'Amelio.
Present.
Mrs. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Siegel.
Here.
Joe Howman.
Here.
Joe Holmes.
Here.
Mr. McGarity.
Here.
Mr. Wexler.
Here.
Mr. Connell.
Here.
And Mr. Lever.
Here. All right, we'll have the opening prayer by Reverend Ryan Whitney.
Good evening, everyone. Let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon all those who hold office in this township and those who work for its welfare the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
You got it. Okay. So, that's canceled, right? It's canceled, yes. Okay. Okay. We're going to do the proclamation for the Haverford Township Police SWAT team.
Why don't we let Jack Whalen speak and get out of here? Mike, let Jack Whalen speak and get out of here. Oh, we could sit through this.
You might want to be up there too.
Yeah.
Just see how.
You're on the committee. On the police committee. Tell me people are you.
I'll get started while the police officers are coming behind me. I appreciate everybody being here this evening. I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, wishes to acknowledge and congratulate the outstanding performance of the Haverford Township Police SWAT team. Whereas on October 22nd, 2015, the Haverford Township Police SWAT team competed in the third annual Delaware County SWAT Challenge. Haverford competed against SWAT teams from Upper Darby, Chester, Central Delaware County, and Region 1. And whereas the events the teams competed in were a single-man obstacle course, a team obstacle course, handgun, rifle, sniper, and officer down. The events are scored for time along with accuracy, and the combined scores for all the events determine the overall winner. Haverford Police won the overall competition and placed first in the handgun completion, second in the team obstacle course, and second in the officer down drill. This is the second time that the team from Haverford was named the overall winner. The first was in 2013. And whereas the members of the Haverford SWAT team are Deputy Chief Viola, Lieutenant Hagan, Sergeant Scott, Sergeant Dolan, and Sergeant Zambon. Officers Lane, Hatton, Watkins, Mitzer, Dawn, DeSantis, Coxhead, Lawton, Long, Mike Flynn, Howard, Linlow, Coleman, Pike, and Linker. And the medics were Devaney and Clark. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners thank the Haverford Township SWAT team for their dedication to the township and to their highly respected department, proclaimed this 9th day of November 2015 by Mario Oliva, the President of the Board of Commissioners, Larry Gentili, the Township Manager. Gentlemen, congratulations.
police lineup.
I used to be in.
But I'm bum. Yeah. Well, he's sitting right in the audience. Want we get him? Motion to.
I don't think anybody's gonna fit. Sorry? No, you can put there. You're here.
You can applaud them again, right?
Okay. Commissioner. Okay, so next we have a proclamation, not a proclamation, a check presentation from Vidian Dodge, Boyle Oil, and Premier Orthopedics from,
For the,
yep,
We back up to this again?
yeah. From Vidian Dodge, we have Dave Beatty. Dave here? There he is. Pat Boyle from Boyle Energy. That's right here. Pat, come on up. And also Dr. Jeffrey Malumed from Premier Orthopedics.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, our lives can and sometimes do change drastically within a matter of minutes. Often during those times, each minute can literally mean the difference between life and death, either for ourselves or someone we love. It might be a child who was lost, an older resident who's gotten confused, or a family whose home or lives are endangered. Recently, we received a report of a 99-year-old female who walked away from her residence on Marple Road. Canine bar was deployed. Canine bar indicated movement towards a wooded hillside. Police officers heard an elderly female voice and discovered the woman had fallen down a 10-foot steep slope, sustaining injuries to her head and arm. We all know that our lives can never be completely safe. However, I believe that one of our primary responsibilities as the people elected to serve the residents of this township is to do our best to safeguard the people, whether it is protecting them from danger or from accidents or even simple mistakes. As many of you know, I was a proponent of funding the K-9 unit because I believe the K-9 unit would help us fulfill our responsibilities to safeguard the people, especially during those times when every minute counts. When we initiated the K-9 unit, I, along with the police, promised that we would look for alternative funds to help defray the cost of maintaining the dogs. Although we cannot put a value on the peace of mind for the parents of a lost child who is found, or the family of that 99-year-old woman, or on the safety of our homes and neighborhoods, we can put a value on what it costs to feed the dogs, train the dogs, and keep them healthy. Therefore, I am extremely grateful for the generous donation of Vidian Dodge, Boyle Energy, and Premier Orthopedics to help defray that cost. So on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, but especially on behalf of the families of lost children or elderly members and the residents whose homes and neighbors are kept safer, I just want to say thank you for helping us provide this vital service to the people of Haverford Township. So, everyone go in the front and take a picture? Yes, and Chief, why don't you?
can't spend it.
I already did. Maybe you can go in the middle. You're accepting the checks anyway. That's good, that's good.
The ladder, what?
Thank you very much. There's more people in there. You want them to sit over there? Or?
Yeah, we have spots open up here if you guys want to come up. We have 2, 4, 5 spots up in here. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone who donated. Now we have a presentation from, we've invited Jack Whalen, our district attorney, to speak about the heroin issue going on here in Haverford Township and in Delaware County. Actually, it's going on all over the East Coast, but Jack's here to talk about that issue.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Board of Commissioners. It's a great honor for me to be back here in Haverford Township. And I was asked to speak about some of the problems we're seeing across the county, specifically related to the heroin epidemic. You've heard President Obama, the White House staff speak about across the country about the heroin issue. You've heard recently Governor Wolf come out and speak about the crisis in Pennsylvania. And approximately 2 years ago, we noticed in Delaware County a rise in the deaths related to overdoses of heroin. But I don't want you to be confused with our heroin task force that we've created 2 years ago as our law enforcement or narcotics task force. We here in Delaware County, through our criminal investigation division, have a narcotics task force, and that's an organization of law enforcement officers throughout Delaware County. And they are undercover agents. Haverford Township is a great part of that. And just listening to the two presentations before, I can tell you without a doubt, I'm here tonight representing Delaware County. We have 43 separate police departments when we include the Pennsylvania State Police. And your police department is second to none in regard to professionalism, courtesy to their residents, as well as their training and the way they handle a crisis situation. You have a tremendous SWAT team as well as a police department led by your chief, but I work on a daily basis with Deputy Chief Viola as well as Lieutenant Hagan, and I can tell you they are two quality police officers that are professional, high-ranking individuals that enable me on a daily basis to do my job. So I know that the Board of Commissioners here is proud of them, and I know that the residents are proud of your police department. But our narcotics task force is 60-plus individuals that go to different neighborhoods on a regular basis throughout Delaware County. And what we're looking for is criminal activity. We're looking for people that are selling drugs. We're undercover. We're trying to eliminate those individuals off of your streets. So they're not selling to the children. They're not occupying street corners. They're not infiltrating drugs into our school districts. So we continue to work on that basis with our narcotics task force. But 2 years ago, we formulated, because of the need and because we saw heroin abuse, because we saw prescription drug abuse, opioid prescription drug abuse, we formulated the narcotics task force. That's been working over the last 2 years. Recently, you're hearing a lot of attention. So far, in the last 2 years, we've been able to put prescription drug drop boxes in every single police department in Delaware County. So if you have prescription medication you're no longer taking, if you have unwanted, unused opioids, we're really encouraging you to get them out of your house, because what we're seeing, what our investigation reveals, is young individuals typically will look into parents' medicine boxes, their nightstands, or grandmom and grandpop's medicine box, nightstands, and they will take those drugs and either utilize them themselves or sell them on the street or sell them in schools. So we're seeing it. We even see people going to open houses and looking in nightstands and medicine boxes in an open house, with their drug-seeking dependent behavior. So we've had realtors on our narcotics task force as well as consulting on our heroin task force because of this epidemic where people are seeking that. So every single police department has that. Also, though, we saw the need for education in the schools. So we partnered with NOPE. Originally, we were doing it ourselves in the district attorney's office. We're now partnered with NOPE, which is a narcotics prevention group. We've seen their program. It's very powerful. They've been going into schools. Haverford Township, about 2 years ago, had the presentation. I think they're due for another presentation. We have a partnership with the intermediate unit, so we'll be working with the Haverford School Board as well as the administrators to get the education into the schools so that kids realize that there is a direct connection between prescription drug abuse and heroin. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, I'm going to be a heroin addict. What happens typically is they get addicted to painkillers, Oxycontin, Percocet, Vicodin, and they take that. They either take it voluntarily or they take it because maybe they were injured in a sporting event or injured in a car accident. They become addicted. They don't realize how powerful the drugs are. It's our duty right now to get out there into the neighborhoods, to get out there into parents' groups, to get out there into our schools and educate our students, our young individuals, to let them know that you cannot take prescription medication, even though you think it's FDA approved or grandmom and grandpa are taking it, it can't be harmful. It is. We're seeing kids addicted. What happens is after they get addicted to the Oxycontin or the Percocet, they can't get it anymore. And what they're doing is they're turning to heroin, which has the same molecular structure as the opioid drugs. Once they take the heroin, it's produced in South America. It's a deadly drug. Some of it's mixed with fentanyl. It can kill you, and it has unfortunately killed many here in Delaware County. When the heroin task force was first formulated, we had about 50 to 60 deaths per year as a result. That's why we formulated the task force. However, now, as I speak here tonight, right now the coroner has informed me that today we have 77 deaths heroin related, and it's climbing. So we have to be very careful of the kids taking opioids. We have to be careful. We've been looking at the behavior of some doctors, and recently our office has prosecuted 3 doctors operating pill mills where people will just go into the doctor's office, no physical history, no ailments, no problems whatsoever, and they're getting prescriptions for opioids. Those recently, just last month, we were able to prosecute a doctor doing that, and now he's facing a substantial jail sentence in the state correctional institution, and he's been convicted of over 200 counts of illegally issuing prescriptions. So we're working on all fronts, both on the heroin task force and also the narcotics task force, and also undercover work looking at doctors that may be doing it illegally. Very few doctors, I believe, abuse their power, but these 3 doctors did, and we're looking at other individuals, are under investigation for this type of behavior. Finally, what the heroin task force has done is we lobbied for new legislation, and we were fortunate a year ago to get that new legislation. Went into effect last year at Thanksgiving time, Thanksgiving weekend. Delaware County was the first in the state of Pennsylvania to equip officers with naloxone. Naloxone is the drug antidote that police officers are carrying. If they come across a young individual, a teenager, an adult, it doesn't matter, that are suffering from an opioid overdose, that could be from Oxycontin, it could be from Percocet, or it could be from heroin. If they're ODing and the officer gets there in time before the ambulance, they could administer naloxone. It will immediately reverse the effects of a heroin overdose and bring that child or that young adult back to life. Then we try to get that individual the help that they need, try to get them into treatment, into recovery. There are issues with individuals not having enough resources for drug treatment, and we recognize it. Haverford Township is carrying naloxone. They rose to the occasion when we approached the police officers across the county, asking who will be able to help us make sure that we'll pay for it in the county's offices. We'll get the resources to the officers. We'll supply them with their naloxone. The chiefs of police across the county stood up and said, we will carry naloxone. They didn't have to do it. They did. That's why we became the first state in Pennsylvania. And it was Haverford that was right up to the first saying, we'll carry naloxone. We want to make sure that if we're coming across someone who is overdosing, that we have the ability to try to save that individual. It's not about judging the people. It's about saving the people and then trying to get them the help that they need. You know, we're known throughout Delaware County, certainly my office, and I lead the charge on tough prosecutions as keeping dangerous criminals off the street, but at the same time, we understand the compassion of individuals becoming addicted and trying to help those young individuals, those adults, overcome that addiction, and it starts sometimes with having to save their life, and we understand that. So we'll continue our efforts here in Haverford Township. We'll continue to work with the police department, work with recovery resources to make sure that we're addressing the needs. But I think a lot of it has to do also with getting into the schools and talking to the kids and letting them know how dangerous it was. Back in the 70s, there was heroin around. You didn't hear much about it. It was thought that it was a back alley type of drug with people laying in the alley with needles in their arms. What the difference is today, it's the prescription drug medication. That's where we have to focus also. The difference from the 70s to what we're facing now this year in 2015 is the difference of opioids and the direct link between prescription drug abuse of opioids and heroin. There's a direct link. That's where it's going. That's where we have to start the fight. So we will continue to do so, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the Board of Commissioners may have as it relates to this issue or any issue.
Guys, as we talked about before, Jack, I talked to you earlier this evening. We have groups, or a group that I know of that I've been in contact with, who would like to get in contact with you, and they're a grassroots effort. So I believe she's going to speak tonight on this issue, and I'd like you guys to work together on.
Sure, and we'd be happy to work with whatever group. We do have different groups that we're affiliated with throughout Delaware County. The one group that is our main component right now that we fund is the NOPE program throughout the schools, and NOPE has been instrumental. And NOPE right now is educated over 15,000 kids across Delaware County have been instructed through NOPE about the dangers of opioid prescriptions and heroin abuse. And so far in Delaware County, we have removed from the police stations about 8,000 pounds of drugs that people have deposited in the prescription drug boxes. And finally, we're about right now at 140 saves across Delaware County by police officers administering naloxone. Since last Thanksgiving to this day, we're about 140. So officers have saved 140 times using naloxone. Haverford Township has used it a minimum of 8 times right here in Haverford Township. Well, we would expect, unfortunately, if it wasn't for those saves, those 140 saves, that those 77 lives that have already been pronounced dead as a result of heroin overdoses would be much, much higher, but for the work of the great police officers here in Haverford Township as well as across Delaware County.
Jack, can I ask you, do you ever go into like the halls of AA and NA, Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous?
I've met with various individuals that are associated with NA and AA, and I've spoken to them a number of times about different issues, one of them being the prescription drug abuse issue. So we have talked to them. The heroin task force is comprised of about 25 individuals that are community and government related. Delaware County Council, for example, is an intricate part of the heroin task force and has given me the resources that I need in order to do the job, not only in the district attorney's office, but on the heroin task force. They're the ones that originally funded naloxone across Delaware County. They spent $20,000 to equip 800 doses, 400 police cars across Delaware County, so the officers had naloxone.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Jack, thanks for your efforts. This epidemic can touch any family. I learned the hard way last year when I lost a nephew to it, so I appreciate all you do.
And that's true. I mean, one of the things we're seeing, there is no community in Delaware County that is immune from this drug problem. It cuts across all walks of life. I recently, just last week, met with a woman from Garnet Valley and living in a multi-million-dollar house, and she was so distraught. Her daughter almost died. Her daughter, fortunately, is still alive, and we're working to try to give her the resources she needs. But one of the things I've seen is there is no one immune. It cuts across all socioeconomic boundaries. And unfortunately, in fact, I was watching one of the debates in the Republican candidates, and I know the presidential candidate, Carly Fiorina, had mentioned that she lost a daughter from heroin overdose. I believe it was a stepdaughter. So it just shows you how much this drug has affected our communities, and we're going to work together with our communities, with the resource providers, with the recovery providers, with our police departments that are second to none here, and we're going to try to continue to provide the resources to the residents that they need in order to deal with this issue and try to save as many lives as we can, at the same time educating individuals. You know, we don't hesitate to arrest somebody if we have to in order to get them into the program and treatment that they need. But for the most part, our first goal, of course, is to save that life so that we can get them the help that they need and get them back on the right course.
Jack,
Thank you. Go ahead.
thank you for being here this evening. Some of us have constituent meetings, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind coming to one of ours, and, you know, this way the people that don't make it here, hear it in our neighborhoods. And
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Whatever, you just contact me, and I'd be happy to come to some of the community neighborhood meetings.
so just to talk about this epidemic, and you say it's bad throughout the county, and all municipalities have this problem. It's not unique to just this area. Radnor has the issue as well.
Oh, absolutely.
All up and down the East Coast.
All up and down.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we're seeing it now as a crisis across Pennsylvania. One of the other, one of my colleagues in the district attorney's association from Berks County was telling me most of his problems are in really rural farming areas, which surprises me that individuals in rural towns, farming towns, also are suffering from heroin overdoses and heroin epidemics. We're seeing it, for example, even in Oxford, Chester County, which you would consider very rural. Tom Hogan, who's my colleague in Chester County as the district attorney, they're all experiencing it. I don't know any district attorney across the 67 counties in Pennsylvania that doesn't recognize this as a very concerning problem.
Is that true? They lace it with rat poison as well?
No, but they do, they won't.
I've heard that.
They won't put rat poison in it, but they do cut it with different types of agents. One of the agents is fentanyl, and fentanyl, what we've seen from the medical examiner, is that can be a deadly combination. Many of the individuals that have the fentanyl packets will die because they think they're taking heroin. Mostly it's pure fentanyl. The other problem we're seeing over the years, in the 70s, the purity of heroin was around 15 to 20%. However, today on the street, the purity of heroin is 80 to 90% pure.
Wow.
Huge
Wow.
difference between the 70s and what we're seeing today.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Thanks, Jack. We appreciate
Thank you very
coming out
much
here.
for coming out.
We appreciate it. Next up, we have the Environmental Advisory Council on Rain Gardens.
Shit, let's think of.
A link to them being on our website. Where's Larry? To the task force. Is there a link?
Sure, I'll ask.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to turn. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Nora Schmidt, who's going to try to breeze through the presentation quickly. We've been asked to cut it back a little, so Nora?
All right. Hi, I'm Nora. I used to work for the Parks and Rec Department, and now I volunteer on this great program that we've started. And so we're just going to give you an update of what we've been up to this past year. So I think I'm going to breeze through what a rain garden is. We've given a couple presentations on what it is. If you're interested, you can get the contact information at the end. All right. So our goal is to get 100 rain gardens in the next 10 years. So here's all how it works. And so far, we have put in 10 in the last year, which was our goal, which was great. and we held 2 residential workshops or educational workshops for over 70 people. And let's just breeze through this. And we had a couple funding sources. One was the Water Resources Education Network grant that we put in. If you guys have ever been over to the Haverford Reserve, there's a big garden next to one of the playing fields. So that is a rain garden, and that was one of the first gardens we put in, and it's doing really well right now. And then the rest of the garden, here's the picture. So there's the picture of what it looks like. The bottom picture is what it looks like relatively recently. So a rain garden does have beautiful plants in it. It can look nice, and it's working really well. All right, so then we started a residential rain garden program. So if anybody is interested in getting a rain garden on their property, this is what we did. We came out to your property, we walked around it, you talked to us about your water issues, and we went through this rubric. We said, okay, here's the first, is stormwater an issue, was the first question. So once we did that assessment, we did around 30 assessments of properties, so it was really well received. People were really interested in it, and so here was the property that we ended up planting at. So this is on Maryland Avenue, and so then that is mid-plant, I think. Can't really see any plants in there. And this is another one right by the high school, Mill Road. So maybe some of the kids in here, I'm not quite sure if you guys are in high school, may have seen it right as you go to school. And no, she's not here, Lillian, okay. And this is another interesting one. A rain garden has a berm to catch and hold the water. So this one had an extensive berm to hold it up. Am I explaining it enough? Okay. Yeah. Okay, this one here, I'm just going to point out because this is Nicole's yard, she's over there, and she is, very enthusiastic. So this garden was interesting because she had a very small property and she had water running off of her driveway, and she really wanted it to be small enough so she could still have a yard, and so she definitely does now, and it looks really great. We worked it in with her original landscaping. And Nicole has gotten a lot of compliments, and a lot of her neighbors have actually emailed to say, hey, I think I might want a rain garden too. So, nice. Okay. And here's another one that we rerouted. Their downspouts that were actually getting piped into the street back into the backyard so that it would go into the rain garden. So we were actually diverting water that was going into the storm sewer. So most of all the gardens that we were doing were diverting water from the storm sewer or a creek that was getting direct water. So here is the location. Haverford Township is outlined. It's a little jagged, but Haverford Township. So we put in 10 gardens. So the Cobb's watershed is the smaller one on the right, and the Darby Creek is on the left. So we are really interested in following, as we put in the next 100 gardens, we want to see, are we lessening the stormwater impacts? Are we going to have maybe smaller, we're not going to decrease flooding altogether, but are we going to see a marked decrease? Are we going to say, right in that spot, that homeowner says they don't have flooding in their basement anymore. And we have seen that already. A couple homeowners have said, in heavy storms we used to get water down the walls of our basement. And I didn't see that this summer with this garden. So I'm, really happy that we did this. And so that's really what we're about. We just want to help homeowners take charge, say, I have a water issue, but I want to deal with it on my own property if I can. So if you can is the point that we have the assessment. If you somehow your soils aren't suitable, or if your property is not sloped in the right way, we help you come up with the different options. Say, we've suggested, okay, maybe if you put your downspout in this direction, or if you put a rain barrel in, you can actually help and maybe not get water in your basement from these ways. So we're really trying to build a community of people who are really informed about the water on their property. So I think we have some more. So what we learn. We learned some things. And we also did see, some roads we found after we were doing assessments that they really weren't built correctly and weren't, they were having water just, pushing it away and not really dealing with it. And some old properties had steep slopes and erosion and not properly maintained stormwater control measures. So some of these things that we're noticing, we're hopeful that we can get the township involved to say, hey, we noticed this, maybe we should come up with a check and balance with some of these stormwater control measures. So we had this one large, so we're working for next year. We have already started doing assessments. We did, I think we did 6 assessments this last weekend. We have an additional 10 more people who are interested, who are brand new. So we're gaining momentum. We're not slowing down. We're really interested. And so now we're just working on, we have some of our plants are in a greenhouse. We have a lot of different things. We are looking for funding still. We started a sponsorship program for anybody who wants to help sponsor. So if you want to help, you say, I have a business and I want to support this effort, we would love to take your money. So we've partnered with the Haverford Township Civic Council and Haverford in Bloom so we can accept funds and sustain this effort. Our first contribution actually came from Nolan Painting, who has supported a lot of different efforts in the township, so everybody probably is aware of them. So we're also, there's a bunch of different funding opportunities. This is an issue not only that we're interested in, but the entire region, the entire country. Everybody's interested in measuring, containing, and really working on reducing stormwater. So it's not just us. All right, and what we could use is, we need help identifying locations. We still have to put a public garden in somewhere in Haverford Township next in the spring of next year to fulfill one of our grants. So we haven't identified this location yet. So we have a list of potential locations, but we're still looking for more. And we do need extra tools and space, and yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, yep, join the team. This is a Haverford Township Day. The Fanatic was really into it. And so if you're interested, if you want to get more information, or if you think you might want a rain garden, you can email the havearaingarden@gmail.com. Or we have some flyers over there with Nicole. And make sure to like our Facebook page.
Very much. All right. Now, moving on, we're going to have the Township Auditor update. Our auditor here, Gary Schlotbeck.
Good evening. I reviewed the list of disbursements for the period commencing October 14, 2015 and ending November 9, 2015. I've also reviewed the explanation of certain expenditures during that period. I've raised certain questions with our township manager, Larry Gentili. Those questions were answered to my satisfaction. Therefore, in my opinion, I believe that there were no irregularities in the period in question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, number 8, Township Solicitor update on term limits.
Okay, I was asked that I take a look at what the law is, or the state of the law with respect to Haverford Township and Pennsylvania in general with respect to term limits. Haverford Township, as you'll probably know, is a first-class township. First-class townships are governed by the First-Class Township Code. Under the First-Class Township Code, there is no term limit. It's unlimited. You can run for as many terms as you want. In order to change the First-Class Township Code, it would have to be done by an act of the legislature to change that. In addition, Haverford Township is a home rule charter. Our charter also has unlimited terms under section, I think it's C207 of our charter. Again, that's not something that can be changed real easily. What needs to be done to change that would be a referendum. In order to get a referendum on a ballot, you'd need to have either an ordinance supporting that referendum, or you'd need to have 10% of all the voters in the last gubernatorial election sign a petition to get that onto a referendum, and then it would still need to, it would have to go to the election office, make sure the question is framed right, and then it would still need to pass on the general ballot when it comes up.
Okay.
Mr. Byrne, can you explain that again? 10% of all the voters for the gubernatorial race?
Yes, in Haverford, all the people that voted in the last gubernatorial race, you need to get 10% of them to
Who wrote
sign a
that?
petition. What's that?
Who wrote that?
I don't know the answer. It wasn't me.
I mean, how did they come up with that?
I don't know.
So 10% of the voters that voted in the last gubernatorial race, and I'm not pronouncing that as well as I should. Interesting. And I'm guessing the state supersedes the township, or vice versa?
Well, in terms of the state would normally supersede the
Right,
township.
right.
And when you have a home rule charter, it becomes a little bit different, because when you have a
Right.
home rule charter, you're allowed to have changes that are different from the state law in connection with laws of what they call general applicability.
Okay.
Which I think this
Got
would
it.
be one of those.
Right.
But you'd still need to go through the process of getting it put on a referendum, and then still would have to have the referendum passed.
Okay, and you said something about an ordinance in order to get the referendum
An
passed?
ordinance, well, there's two ways you can get a question put on the ballot as a referendum question, and that would be either by ordinance of the
Okay.
township, or by the 10% that I talked about earlier.
Oh, either or?
Right.
Oh, okay. So the Board of Commissioners would have to pass the ordinance?
That's right.
Interesting.
They can't pass an ordinance to just say term limits. They would have to pass an ordinance.
The ordinance
put
to have it put on the referendum?
Right, yes.
Put on as a referendum?
Right.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. I hope that's clear to the audience. It's clear to me now, but it was a bit confusing on the first explanation. Not your fault.
Okay.
Thank you.
We designed it that way, so you can ask us again.
Yeah, he doesn't
No
get it up.
doubt, no doubt.
He doesn't get it up the first time, so he's got to do it a second time.
Right. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, we will begin the citizens forum. 20-minute registered speakers. And we'll start with Dan Twaddle. He's outside. He'll be right in.
He should be in up front.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they used to live right near you.
This guy, he's a skateboarder.
He's skateboarding in.
He's here. Right, before we start with you might want to have the people who are here in support of the skate park raise their hands.
Yeah, I got more outside too.
Yeah. Just so the board realizes how many people are in support of the skate park. Okay, yeah, there you go. There's 1,000 outside. This is what I'm hearing. This is what the group is saying. There's plenty outside. I can see. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
How you doing tonight? I'm Dan Twaddle. I live at 319 Bewley Road, and I'm sorry. I'm an avid skateboarder, and I'm here tonight to support the Haverford Town Skate Park. As of spring 2016, you guys are building a new municipal building, and we would like to ask you to relocate our skate park to the basketball court at Veterans Field. That's where it started out, and this would just be a temporary location for us, and in the meantime, we would like to work with the township to build a new skate park. We're not asking for you to build it for us. We want to raise money. We have private donations set up. We're in contact with Senator Dalen Leach, and we think it's a place that is definitely needed in Havertown. As you can see, there's a bunch of people here that are all in support of it, and without it, have nowhere to go. So with that, I'd like to bring up Mike Armine. He is here to
Can you
speak.
give us your name and address, please?
Dan Twaddle, 319 Bewley Road.
Mike, you can come up. Go ahead.
And how do you spell your last name?
TWA,
They,
DDLE.
they even have matching shirts. You notice?
Yes.
Very nice.
We got shirts made.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Name and address.
Michael Armine, 25 Upland Road. That's Havertown. Good evening. In 1980, a group of neuroscientists decided to put a mouse in a cage with nothing but a tiny bit of food and a hefty quantity of cocaine. Over the course of a few days, that mouse starved itself to death, eating nothing but the cocaine in front of it. They did this 100 times, and 100 mice died. I'm not here advocating for mice. What I am here to tell you is that in 2008, Dr. Carl Hart, Columbia University, decided to change the paradigm of that particular experiment. He took also 100 mice, and he put them in a cage with nothing but cocaine and a small quantity of food. But he also, in that cage, he put little wheels. He put some glasses, cutting boards, things that the mice in my house like to climb on. And all of those 100 mice did a little bit of the cocaine. They ate their food. They played on their wheels, and they never touched the cocaine again. Like the gentleman said earlier, you're facing an epidemic. You have a tax base that is dwindling, and you have a small constituency, whom I am here to represent, who is a fringe constituency. All right? They are the kids who are out at night riding their skateboards. They are the kids in my classroom who find baseball, football, and the stadium antiquated means of entertainment. I'm here to ask the board, direct the Parks Department to move the park. By the time the ground is broken, relocate to Veterans Field. If you're not following my little analogy with the mice, failure to do so, failure to move the park, puts my students at risk, not the students whom do well on AP test scores. I'm talking about the fringe kids. I'm talking about the kids who carry a C average, the kids who I tend to talk a little more with. They're the kids who need something to do. They don't believe in organized sports. Most of them don't believe in organized religion. Fun fact. You've got to give them something to do other than the random things that they will find to do in the woods, in the Grange, or some other location, in some other parent's basement. That demographic frequents the park. That demographic, like my friend and I, my colleague and I, have been saved by skateboarding. We're here to ask that you give the young kids whom we represent the same opportunity, or a different opportunity. We're here to ask you just to give them a small plot of land, a small space to practice their art form and not get in trouble. And have a means of actually saying, hey man, I really don't want to go out tonight and get drunk. I'd rather just go do a 50-50 on a box somewhere. Not that I expect you to understand what that is.
Okay. All right, we have to move on, but
I understand.
But we'll discuss this after everybody speaks.
Thank
okay.
You. Thank you very much.
In case you didn't realize it, Mike is a school teacher here at Haverford School District. Okay. Peggy Murr? Did I say that right? Yeah, I did. It's spelled wrong here. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Peggy Murr. Do I need to say my address?
Yeah.
1747 Westchester Pike, Havertown, PA. I'm going to try to make this quick, but I have to go back into how this got started. Mario mentioned that this was a grassroots, and it definitely is a grassroots group. But back in June, a good friend of my son passed away from an overdose down in Sea Isle City. He was from Havertown, and we buried him. The funeral was at Annunciation on a June Saturday. If you drove by Annunciation, you would have seen 20-somethings in suits, and you would have thought it was a wedding. But it wasn't a wedding, it was a funeral. And the mothers and I, we were all outside saying, what can we do? We have to do something. And then life got in the way, and we really didn't do anything. And fast forward a month, I had eye surgery and was off work for 2 weeks. And in my day job, I work with the law enforcement, federal law enforcement agencies, so I'm always keeping up with initiatives and the heroin epidemic. And there was an article in the News of Delaware County that in 1 week in July, 9 folks died of overdoses due to heroin. And the article highlighted how it wasn't from Darby or Upper Darby, it was from the affluent towns. So I posted that message onto the Havertown Community Facebook, and that generated so much discussion. I think it generated more discussion than anything ever discussed on that website. It's a great use of social media. So everyone said, well, what can we do? What can we do? And nobody really knew what to do. And because I had the time, I said, you know what? I'm going to facilitate a meeting. I'll be happy to get it together. And the very next day, Diana Madio, who's here, she says, I'll be your partner. So within a month, we were able to get the library to do a community meeting. We had support from some of the commissioners here, Mario and Jeff Heilman sent out message, and our new Kevin, our newly elected ward leader, he was very supportive. And I called the police department. I talked to Mike Flynn, and Lieutenant Hagan offered their support. So we had a meeting last month at the library. We were expecting 20 to 25 people. And a lot of the people that came to the meeting actually lost children in this community. So I had 2 boxes of Kleenex, and it was a very sad event. But I had 3 DEA agents come to talk. And the meeting was just about drugs. So they gave the talk, and what happened is we didn't have 20 or 25 people. We had 60 people sign in, and we had about 80 attendees. We were overwhelmed. So there were so many questions, and the DA, we're glad to hear that the DA were going to be working with the students, but we realized the very first meeting is adults need the education too. So in 1 month, what we've done is we formed a consortium. And we actually have a name already, and it's called the Haverford Alliance for Drug Awareness. And we even have a mission statement. And the mission statement is, the mission of the Haverford Alliance for Drug Awareness is to remove the stigma that surrounds the disease of drug addiction. That's first and foremost. So many of these families are afraid to talk about it, but it is a disease. To that effort, this group is committed to work with Allegiance partners, and that would be township schools, medical community, law enforcement, clergy, to help educate all township residents about the dangers of drugs that surround our community. And the second part of this is the Alliance will also serve as a welcoming clearinghouse for information on drug prevention and rehabilitation programs, and serve as a resource for support for the families that are currently dealing with the disease. We realize that support is a really important part. We already have an advisory board. We have a physician from Haverford Township. Yesterday, the director of the VA Medical Center, head of addictions, said that they would help us out. We have relatives of law enforcement folks here. We have a tech person, Adrian Hickman, who's going to stand up the Facebook. It's going to be a closed Facebook site. If anyone wants to like it, we encourage that. And in the next month, we're going to have another meeting, and we're going to break out into action teams. So we might have a forum that might be a result of the action teams, and we hope that you can help us. And we were going to wait till after the holidays, but the addiction counselors are telling us that the holidays are the worst time. If folks are in rehab, they relapse. If people are going to do drugs, it's the holidays. They might feel depressed. So we're going gangbusters, and we're going to try to have another meeting in December. So stay tuned, and we certainly appreciate all your help here and your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy.
How would somebody get in touch with, could you just come up and just tell them how you can get in touch with your group, if they would like to?
Sure, you can actually email me, peggymurr@verizon.net, or you can reach me through the Haverford Community Facebook site. That's where most of our members have come. And again, in a week, go in and Google under groups, Haverford Alliance for Drug Awareness, HADA would be the acronym. We're going to have that stood up. It's ready to go now. We just need a few things to post. One last thing I forgot to mention, the DEA agents that were there at the meeting, they posted, we're one of the first communities to ever bring them out, and they were so impressed with the turnout that they actually did an article with pictures, and it's on the DEA Philadelphia website if you want to see a picture of the attendees.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peggy, for what you do. We appreciate it. Okay, next we have Dave Freed. McCandless Fuels is the...
David Freed, 548 Washington Avenue. Just back again. We've been visiting every so often for the last 2 years. Just wanted to provide an update. Again, this is primarily about the former McCandless site that is now, I think it's called the Harvard Station, Harvard Road development. You know, we take a step back for other people who have not been here before. You know, there's been a history with that site of businesses that were there, asphalt, oil, tar, things like that. And about last May, kind of unearthed some things. We called meetings and so on, and so we've been following it up. And the latest update, basically, for 6 months we've been waiting for a site characterization plan from the DEP. And that was due October 31st. October 30th, the Developers Council requested another 45-day extension for further characterization and so on. They didn't really, in that note, express why or what the reason for the extension was, so we're all ears on that. But since then, there's been a lot of excavation going on in lots 2 and 3, and it's to be most likely the worst area of the property. I mean, it's black oil. For anybody who's seen the videos that have been making the rounds on Facebook, it's ugly. And we've actually had some specialists come in and look at it. And, you know, for a DEP project, and I'm not knocking them, everybody's kind of blown away that this is sitting there. Typically, you have to pump out the water that's in there. Previous this year, you know, thanks to help of Steve and some of the other commissioners, they found West Nile back there. So God knows how many gallons of water are sitting there right now, but it's oily water. It's thick. You can visit anytime. And then we had a situation where we've had concern about due to the short setbacks and so on, we've had concern about the drainage and the stormwater. And then lo and behold, last rain, not even a storm that we got, the water pooled down on the south end of the property around lots 2 and 3 and left the property under the barrier, because as we found out later, it was the incorrect barrier. It wasn't sufficiently put there. And it pooled and left the property into 540 Washington's backyard. And it was contaminated water. I mean, it's obvious what it was. We called the DCCD, that's the Delaware County Conservation District, and they came, they verified, they've wrote them up for some infractions about the barriers, as well as some other things associated with it. Then we also found out that the owners, it was one LLC, Harvard Road Development, they sold it last November 25th to a new development, Harvard 7, and they never transferred the permits. And there, since, with this, we've learned that they're supposed to provide weekly reporting and everything else to both the district as well as the DEP, and we've not been able to find any of those weekly reports. And this is, it's scary stuff, and I've been going to visit the DEP, reviewing the file. There's some nasty chemicals they found back there. One of them, again, these are new to me too, one of them exceeded the limit, for touch by 350%. It's called benzopyrene, and the National Institute of Health, they just put it as ranked number 4th most toxic chemical. So we've been coming here a lot, and again, all that I'm looking for is, or we're looking for, the residents there, is an active role, kind of help us out. We've just retained some legal counsel, and then lastly is the setbacks. Again, everything we've kind of talked about has come true. Just one more second, if you don't mind, is behind 552, I believe, one of the homes has gone up, and it's actually gone up on top of a contaminated area. They put in a vapor barrier, so it's essentially almost 4 stories. So it's 25 feet from our property lines, and it's obnoxious, it's not right, and we're looking for help. We need help with this. This isn't adding up in every sense of the word, so we welcome your advice and help, and the community's help to push this.
Dave, now Christine McWilliams. I'm sorry, Christine McWilliams. Henze, okay. You
Hi,
gotta get her
everyone.
to spell this correctly.
My name's Christine McWilliams Henze. I grew up at 433 Colfax in the 4th Ward. For those of you, I don't speak as well as Mike, so I apologize. I'm going to be reading off of my little. For those of you that don't know me, I worked for Haverford Township for several years under Tim Denny. And I was a summer program counselor, and I worked in the office, and Tim and Brian, they always kept me busy. So, but most importantly, during the time I was working there, I was passionate about getting the skate park through the approval process. This is around 2002, 2003. This is one of the biggest accomplishments in my life at the time, and all under, as you know, a very different political climate in Haverford Township. 12 years later, I'm now a mother. I'm thrilled to have my daughter involved in various recreation programs already at her young age. Growing up in Havertown in the late 80s and early 90s, various forms of recreation were not as easily accessible as they are today. We have a gorgeous rec center, we have beautiful parks, stunning, enviable sports fields that are utilized by many. Haverford Township also has a great skate park, which is just as enviable and just as utilized. Over the last 12 years, I've consistently run a concert at the skate park on Haverford Township Day. The immediately evident thing that one realizes after spending an entire day at the park is that you see that it's used by all ages, all sexes, and all races. I love seeing the dads and moms holding their little kids up on the skateboard and showing them how to push. As you can see by the showing tonight, the skate park is supported and used in Haverford Township. To lose a skate park space would be a travesty. Over the years, so many people have put so much time, energy, private funding, and most importantly, passion into the skate park. For a community to see that their efforts can just be built over is extremely discouraging to the exact demographic of people this township needs engaged to thrive in this area. The support we have come across in the last few weeks have been overwhelming, from Delaware County mothers groups to Senator Dalen Leach. Senator Leach has reached out to me directly and expressed interest in supporting the movement of the park and securing public funds to support the skate park's future. Various local businesses have offered their services to assist in raising private donations as well. We have over 500 people on Facebook providing their support. It has been a whirlwind to see the support we have gained in a few short weeks. Ultimately, I stand here tonight and urge the board to please consider the skate park during the construction of the new police and township buildings. We ask at this time that the park be moved temporarily to the old location, the basketball court at Veterans Field, as soon as possible before groundbreaking in spring 2016. And I look forward to working with this fantastic Board of Commissioners going forward to achieve our skate park committee's goal of permanent and beautiful skate park location in Haverford Township. Thank you. Thank you.
I thought you were going to say something, Larry.
Well, not yet.
Okay.
Until it's my turn.
No, I thought about
Ladies
the
early.
fantastic commissioner remark is what I thought you were going to talk about. Next is Chad Brooks.
Good evening, Chad Brooks, 400 Campbell Avenue. I'm here as your representative to the Grange Estate. As you may have read or heard on Friday, Philadelphia was designated as a World Heritage City. It's the first American city to be so honored. Cities are recognized because of their cultural and historic importance. We have our own heritage site that shares in Philadelphia's rich history. The Grange Estate traces its origins to the 17th century. The great men of the 18th century visited there and have witnessed the gradual change from farm to suburb of the 19th and 20th centuries. By accident, luck, vision, and hard work by public officials and private citizens, it has been preserved for us in the 21st century. It is a real opportunity in our own backyard to touch the past. Yet many residents have never been on the property, let alone tour the house. It is tucked into the corner of the 8th Ward, but it's Westgate's house, it is Bonaire's house, it's Coopertown's house. Everybody should have an opportunity to go there. We're a little past peak, but the grounds are still beautiful. The grounds are open now. The carriage house, the house right now is closed, but it will reopen on November 28th for the Christmas tours. And I highly recommend them. They're a lot of fun. It's 1 to 4 every weekend until January 10th. In the carriage house, there will be a spectacular train display. And I really mean that, spectacular. The displays have always been fun, but this year will be truly special with several layers of trains. The guys have been working on it every week. I've kind of held back myself. I haven't peeked because I want to be surprised when it's finished. But they've really been working hard. My own contribution is my Santa Claus collection. If you love Santa, you should see it. On Saturday, December 5th, the house will be closed for tours for the annual Christmas party. The event is from 4 to 7. I would love it if there were a lot of commissioners there. It's a fundraising for us, but it would be great if you were there. New commissioner, Commissioner-elect McCluskey, love to see you there. It is a lot of fun. The Grange is an old house, and it's a dark house, but it's a warm house. And it's an embracing house. You have a good feeling when you're there, and especially at Christmas time, so I highly recommend it. There'll be good food, there'll be music, and there'll be good company, and it gets your holiday season off to a great start. If I can get another plug in, the Haverford Historical Society has its 8th annual holiday house tour on Sunday, December 6th from 1 to 4 p.m. I did it last year. It is wonderful. Again, it's something you should miss. That is the first day of Hanukkah. It would be a great Hanukkah gift, first night of Hanukkah gift, if you want to give it to somebody. If you guys can't come to the December 5th, give it to somebody as a gift. They'll really appreciate it. It's a great Christmas gift to give somebody. The Historical Society showcases some of the township's most beautiful and historic homes, and it is really a lot of fun, and you'll meet a lot of interesting people. These are fundraisers. The information is on the Grange Estate website and on the Historical Society's website, the cost and things. And you get a discount if you're a member, so there's an incentive there for you to join and be a member. And finally, we heard tonight about activity. The Recreation Department is doing a trail run on Saturday, the Chili Run, and it looks like it will be chilly on Saturday, by the way. It is a really fun event. If you've ever wanted to do a trail run, this is your opportunity to do it in a very well-marked course, a safe course. We'll come out and look for you and have a good time.
Thank you, Pat.
And he's not kidding when he says go see his Christmas display. It is fabulous, believe me. And the trains that they talk about, they're fabulous. Don't forget to get your tickets for the Grange Estate dinner.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you, Warren.
Robert Simpson.
Robert who? Timken?
No, I get your email. Oh, you mean online?
Hi, Robert Simpson, 726 Lawson Avenue.
What's that?
I just want to reiterate, the trains are going to be awesome. Bill Parkinson, that's all he's been talking
They are.
about for forever. And he's real excited to be teaming up with Rick Miller and Chris on that. I'm up here just to offer some gratitude and thanks to Miss Hanlon Widdop and to Kelly and Joan in the zoning office. I'm asking to subdivide a piece of land conjoining my house. And it's very important to me to get this done. Over in zoning, they took a very confused man and led him by the hand. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, you know, how to go about this at the township level. And I want to thank the Planning Commission for recommending it. I want to thank Commissioner Connell for helping me out with this whole process. I couldn't give him enough thanks for that. Most importantly, I'd like to thank my neighbors in Havertown. When the idea was brought to me, I went immediately to all my neighbors and asked them, what do you think about this in our neighborhood? And they all absolutely supported it. We're happy for this opportunity to help my kids out. So I want to thank my neighbors that contacted Chris, the neighbors that came to the Planning Commission and spoke their piece and supported it. And that's all I wanted to do. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right, Mike Levin, Dr. Levin, excuse me.
There's some orders against it.
Yeah, I do have that.
Yeah, I can't remember, I was at that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Oliva. Good evening, residents. Good evening, commissioners. I live at 414 Mill Road in Havertown, and the topic tonight is how necessary is a backwater flow preventer? This has come up at work meetings and has a cost probably at a minimum of $2,500, not paid for by any insurance policy, and installed by a professional plumber with probable add-ons. Now, if you took 10,000 homes which had to install this, you're talking about $25 million, which taxpayers are going to have to spend to put one of these backwater preventers in. Is it covered by any insurance policy? No, not the installation. If it is in there, the little policy that HomeServe offers will cover some things in connection with the backwater preventer. But you have another problem with the backwater preventer. This is a device which breaks the sewer line and goes into it and has a single vein which rides freely within a housing. You're counting on it to function properly after maybe months or even years of operation. A backwater preventer prevents the sewage main water from backing up into your house. So here you are counting on a preventer which is in line to function after months or years of inactivity, and you can't see it. You can put in a small electronic device to show you whether it's in operation or not. But don't count on it. This looks like a pretty flimsy piece of equipment, as well as the vein is a pretty flimsy piece of equipment. I've turned out a sheet to you, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, which gives you a website which is quite authoritative about the types of backwater preventers. What will they also prevent you from doing? They will prevent you from cleaning out your sewer line. Why would you want to clean out your sewer line or your lateral, either in the house or outside? Why? Because it gets plugged. Taking a 4-inch sewer main, which is in the house, about a half an inch on all sides in a well-lived house is going to be plugged up. You do not have much room for water to flow through it anyway. So here you are, considering putting, let's say, a basement or a drain into your basement, which is close to the level of the sanitary stores in the street, and you've got a problem. Because under certain flooding conditions, which I'll define, though that will back up into your house if you do not have a preventer. So should you put a preventer in comparison with what I left as the last line of my presentation last week when I discussed it, what is your township doing about this? Your township could do something very simple that's not going to cost very much money. The first thing that the township could do is require a separation of the storm sewer in your area or from your home from the sanitary sewer. Many people in homes will have the storm sewer sump pump, which pumps it out of the basement, pump it into the sink. And if it pumps into the sink, the next thing you know, you're going to have increased amount of water in the lateral lines in your house. So, step number one is have a plumber certify to the fact that your storm sewers are functioning properly by guiding water from the gutters and the grounds into a storm sewer, not into a sanitary sewer. Second, don't expect your insurance to cover this on either the master homeowner's policy, where I assure you that getting the lowest possible deductible is a very good, that you can afford, is a very good idea, because that policy is the one that you will be able to enforce in a subrogation act. Even though the sewer mains are in public rights of way.
Dr. Levin, you've gone 30 seconds past. Could we wrap it up, please?
Yes, we can. So, the things that Haverford can do are, number one, examine the location of their sewer lines and their age. The older they are, the more of a problem they could be. Second, they could place into effect a regulation requiring a sanitary sewer certification by a registered plumber. And third, you can look at your insurance policy and see whether anything is covered. You will be dumbfounded by the fact that you are actually paying for this policy, which contains so many exclusions and exceptions that the first thing you want to do when you reach something like putting a stormwater preventer in line is call your agent and have them put you in contact with the claims representative to see whether you can actually bring suit against this.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All save $2,500 if you prevent a storm sewer preventer from leaning in.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we'll start on the on agenda items only. Must be on the agenda if you'd like to speak. We'll start on this side. Anybody in the first row? Tom Broido. My pleasure.
My name is Tom Broido. My address is 207 Pine Ridge Road in the 8th Ward. And I'd love to see mice skateboarding. I wasn't quite sure exactly what that whole thing was about, but it sounds interesting. I wanted to mention that I've been following the news, as most of us have, about the relationship between communities and their police departments. And I just want to point out that the most important thing that any police department does is hire, first, qualified individuals. In fact, screening and testing and making sure that you're hiring people that have the kind of temperament and the kind of balanced approach that community policing requires is of paramount importance. And then, of course, training is also very important. But all of this starts with being able to attract the best candidates that are available among people who wish to become police officers. And I just want to urge the board, because I think in 2016, I think the police contract will be up and will be negotiated. And I just want to urge the board, as I advocated when I was a member of this board, not to go cheap on compensating police in our township, because we live in a time now where even policemen in a community such as Haverford Township, because if you've watched anything on the news, you know that trouble and danger, and I mean possibly lethal danger to policemen, can pop up anywhere at any time. And the police in our township are the buffer between ourselves and the dangers that plague, every community in the United States. And so please, when you negotiate the contract, not only being fair to the police we already have in terms of their compensation and their benefits, but also being mindful of the fact that if you don't compensate well in relation to other communities in our area, you will not get the best pool of candidates applying to Haverford Township.
Thank you. Anyone else in the second row? Third row? The fourth row? First row on this side. Anyone? Second row? Third row? The fourth row? No one. Okay. We'll answer some of the questions.
Certainly. The first group of individuals we heard from regarding the skate park. Would you like me to ask Mr. Denny to come up and talk about their, obviously, everyone knows that the township is planning, nothing is set in stone yet, but we're planning on putting a new municipal police department, municipal services building and a police department at the present location where our police department is now. That's going to require some relocation of obviously our police garages, some specialized equipment that we keep on that location. And what we heard about tonight was the skate park that's been there for a number of years, as well as, unfortunately, we're going to lose our site for the recycling, which is it's been a pretty spectacular location for us because it's somewhat centrally located. We have a lot of our businesses, as well as the residents who go to that location when their recycling is not being picked up. So myself and Mr. Denny have been working on this for quite some time. Unfortunately, we don't have an answer, and I don't think we can commit to a location at this time because it's too premature, because we just do not know what the logistics are. Both of those locations will be moved, the skate park as well as the recycling center. We don't have definite locations yet, but I'll ask Mr. Denny to make a couple more comments.
Thanks, Larry. As Larry said, we've been discussing this for probably the last 6 months. There's 3 criteria. First of all, I want to say hi to Christine. It's great to see you. And Steve, of course. Steve was on the park board. In 2003, we had our biggest park board meeting ever. Senator Tillman was here, and this place was jam-packed out into the parking lot, and all because a young boy named Mike, 12 years old, who came to the park board the meeting before that and got started, and a woman named Paula McFadden raised her hand and volunteered to be the mom to get things going. And Brian and I often say that of all the things that we've been able to accomplish in our time here with Murray Place and the trails and Haverford Reserve and Lanark Crossings, and a lot of things that we've been able to get grants for, I don't think anything we're more proud of than the skate park, because we really admire the parents and the kids who made that happen. There's no other group in this township in my 35 years that has had to work like those kids and parents worked to build that facility. The tennis courts don't have to be built like that. The basketball courts, the skate park did. They raised a lot of money. Senator Tillman came through with $50,000. Greg Vitale came through with some money. And then we had a lot of fundraisers and that whole surface, everything there they built. I really admire them. I say the skate park and the dog park are the 2 things that are always being used. And the things I like about them
is they are like when we were kids. They don't have adults organizing them, telling them when to turn left and when to turn right, and uniforms and trophies. They're out there because they love being out there. And I differ with Mike Armine a little bit. One of the things I pointed out when we were building the skate park, it was temporarily on the basketball court, and that's probably where that idea has come from, I'm sure. But I remember at one point walking with some police officers, and I said, you see that kid, that kid, that kid, and that kid? They're all on my basketball team that I coach. These aren't bad kids. They're just kids that like to ride skateboards. That's all, you know. And so I'm really proud of Dan Twaddle. He had come to see me in the summer, and I'm proud of him for stepping up and taking the lead. And Larry Holmes said to please mention that when he was in 7th grade, he built a half pipe in your backyard.
I did. And if I could say, when we were kids, you know, Jimmy Stewart was on TV, and he said, you know, if I'm not guaranteeing that if you're an Eagle Scout, you'll grow up one day to be a famous actor like me, and he's wearing his Eagle Scout uniform. Well, I wasn't an Eagle Scout, but I was a skateboarder. So I'm proud of it. My brother and I built a half pipe in our backyard in 1977.
I got to give Jimmy Garrity a lot of credit because back then I went to him and talked to Jimmy about it, and he was open to the idea. And so it's been a long journey. It was 2003. In 2004, Commissioner D'Amelio was there, and we officially opened it. And Brian and I spent every night in 2004 during the summer at the skate park because we wanted to show people we're just kids that ride skateboards. That's all, you know. There's nothing here that's any better or worse than any other sport in town. So, all that being said,
And they
Jimmy,
were
did you wanna say
100
something?
yards. They were 100 yards from the police station.
Right, yeah.
How much trouble were they going to get in?
Yeah, the only thing I have, Tim, is I have had the skate park in the 7th Ward for 13 years now. And definitely we're going to have to remove that, and we're going to have to remove the recycling center. So we're going to have to find spots for it. The only thing I ask my fellow commissioners is I would hope one of you would come up with an area in your wards to house the skate park. And I'm sure there's other parks that have the room for it. I don't know about the finances, but have the room for it, that they could do that. That's what I would ask in favor of the skateboarders that are here tonight.
One of the things that I have talked with Larry about, the reason that location was picked, and we did have to build it from scratch. We built the parking lot, the surface, everything, as Christine will tell you. There's 3 criteria we were looking for the skate park. One, that it be easy to get to, so that a 14-year-old could get to it. You know, that was, and Haverford Township, as we all know, pretty congested, a lot of traffic. So there's no one spot that works for everybody. There just isn't. But we think some kind of centrally located spot, that it be in a place that wouldn't bother the neighbors. Because the truth is, the boards make noise when they go off the ramps. And that it be a high visibility. And that's why that spot was chosen. High visibility, didn't bother any neighbors, and was easy to get to for a lot of kids in town. So, as Larry said, it's probably premature at this point to know exactly where the temporary spot will be or the long-term spot because we just don't know what that construction site is going to look like. The basketball court is where we had it initially back in 2002 and 2003 while we were raising money for the current location. But certainly our hope is to find a place that meets those 3 criteria. You know, if there's a place in town that kids can get to, that it's hopefully not too close to neighbors, and that it's a high visibility location. And that's the challenge, you know. I wish I could snap my fingers and tell you I have an answer, but we don't. But I do, as I've often said over the years, I think it's, Brian and I both agree, it's one of our proudest accomplishments is building that skate park, because as Christine will tell you, not everybody was with us. And the park board, Dan has come to the last 2 meetings of the park board. They encouraged him to come and speak to the Board of Commissioners, and I congratulate Dan for his work. So I guarantee you we'll work just as hard this time around to make it happen. I just don't know right now where that will be.
Timmy, I know I'm putting you under the gun here, but 13 years ago you came to me and asked me about the skateboarders, and I said, yeah, we'll have it here.
Yeah.
Now what I'm asking you to do is go around to the different parks, pick one of the ones like you did 13 years ago, and see if we can work it out at that newer park. Okay?
You got
Thank
it.
you.
Yep.
Mr. Brooks, thank you for coming, great information. Mr. Simpson, thank you again for your comments. Mr. Levin, a lot of good information on the backflow preventers. Mr. Bordeaux, I can assure you, I've been working diligently with our police officers, and I agree with your comments. They deserve the very best, and I can assure you that we should have that resolved in the near future. That would be beneficial to not only the police officers, but the residents of Haverford Township, our taxpayers. And the last, I believe, would be Mr. Freed, and I'm going to ask Lori and maybe Mr. Pannoni if you'd come up and you can make a couple comments. You know, we've been talking about that for a while.
Well, the latest that we have heard on the property is that there was an extension granted by the DEP on the site characterization. The extension was given through December the 15th. So the final report is now due December the 15th. The information that we received from Pat Pattison from DEP indicates that Lot 5 appears to be completely remediated at this point, which is the lot where the house is under construction. Lots 2 and 3, which are being consolidated for a single home, are being remediated at this time. When the soils are excavated, it produces a lot of odors because of the product that's in the soil. That soil is taken to a licensed facility in the state of New Jersey where it's disposed of according to the law. I also know that Mr. Pattison indicated that the remediation efforts that are underway are in accordance with the corrective action plan that was filed with the state.
Thank you.
Lori, is that extension that was granted by the state, is that normal, or did they grant those? It's a matter of course.
Well,
Do you know?
We've gotten extensions on other, I was actually just showing Mr. Pannoni a letter that we received from another firm for a property right in this vicinity where there was another act to clean up. And it's very close to this job site, as a matter of fact. It's off of that old rail line, the industrial rail line, because that rail line had a number of industrial uses along it, including many of the residential developments on either side of it. There were prior industrial uses, and so it's not going to be unusual for there to be some level of contaminations as a result of it. And in this particular case, we have one where there was a release in 2004, and they're still doing some remediation on this site. So we see it all the time. There's extensions granted all the time for a number of reasons. I don't know what those reasons were. In this case, they just said that they are still collecting the samples and disposing of the soils.
Do we have any say in that, or do they ask for our comments? I mean, DEP, does it ask for township input in these issues?
No, we're copied on the correspondence between the parties. These parties are directed to deal with the state. It's the state's Department of Environmental Protection that approves a corrective action plan and oversees its implementation.
So according to this plan, everything's moving in accordance with the DEP. They're satisfied with the way it's moving, or have they had concerns?
They're indicating that the work that has been done is in accordance with the corrective action plan. Whether or not they think it should be done more quickly or more slowly, they've not indicated that. They're just saying that it comports with the corrective action plan.
Has there been an issue with the soil being removed, or is that being removed timely? The contaminated soil?
Well,
I had heard that there were, I'm sorry, I don't know if you know, I'm just asking.
I could actually, I could help you a little bit. I mean, is there an issue with it? There's contaminated material still on site, covered with plastic, and the corrective action plan will address that, but it hasn't been removed. All of it has not been removed. The DEP's not, I don't believe the DEP is going to say to him, you got to remove it all tomorrow morning. DEP is going to say to him, you got to store it properly, and then you got to remove it properly. You got to have the manifest to show where it went, and it's got to go to a licensed facility for the disposal of that material.
And the township has no say in that. Whether they want to store it on site or not, the township has no say.
Just gotta be done properly per the DEP regs.
Does
Per
it
the
give a window of
DEP
time?
regulations.
Pardon me?
Does it give a window of time?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I believe that that's what the corrective action plan will spell out. And the DEP is going to say, yes, we accept the corrective action plan, or no, we don't. I'll say this, both the developer and their attorney, Mr. Freed still here?
Yeah, he's right.
He mentioned that I'm sorry, that the developer's got an environmental attorney, very good. They've hired an attorney with good environmental background, very good. I can tell you from my experience, neither one of those entities is going to want anything to be done up there that's not right. And I'm sort of just throwing you my experience with both those groups. But that plan that goes in a DP will spell out when it gets removed, how it gets removed, and where it gets disposed. Disposal is not. There's nothing secret. There's nothing unique about it. It's got to go properly licensed facility.
Right, which is not here. We're not
No,
we're not
it's
worried
not
about
right.
the ultimate disposal of this stuff. But I think there's very serious concerns, if I can.
Manifested.
Mr. Benoni, one of the concerns that's been expressed to us, and a concern that commissioners themselves have experienced when they've gone to this site, is maybe that this stuff is not being removed fast enough. And even if it satisfies DEP concerns, DEP live in Harrisburg, and these folks have to live 100 yards away or 10 yards away from this stuff. And I just wonder whether we as a township at least can do something to encourage these folks to move faster than they're moving.
I don't know. I could tell you, in all honesty, my experience is that DEP is at least, if not more, receptive to a resident than a municipal entity. Our experience with DEP is when the residents bring stuff to their attention, the DEP has not been unreceptive to them. As opposed, I gotta be honest with them, we go on behalf of municipalities, they're not always as receptive. That's just my experience. Could be people have others.
Now, we've done that in this case.
Going to the DEP?
Yes.
I have not. So I don't know. the answer to that.
I've talked to the DEP, and I don't know if anyone else has, but I've talked to the DEP, and I've talked to Vitale's office, and I think it's Terry from Vitale's office, and she's been incredibly helpful. But I think having State Representative Vitale, again, come to one of these meetings and try to get his help, and I agree with Commissioner Holmes. You know, they live 100 feet from that site, and the odor, and I was there early on, probably in the spring, early summer, and I could tell you that odor was offensive. So getting it removed is, I'm sorry?
The order is still there.
Right, and having it removed as quickly as possible, I think, is something that we should strive for, and have maybe State Representative Vitale help push that.
And I think maybe if I can, just again, I'm sort of my opinion in with a little bit of environmental background, not just quickly, but there's certain means and methods that I think the homeowners and the property owners might want to make sure they stress through their attorneys and the DEP on how to remove things.
Right.
The means and methods, look, we do not regulate means and methods. We don't regulate means and methods on jobs that we bid, but there are means and methods that might be able to help mitigate some of the odor issues.
Mr. President, excuse my voice. I was at the property yesterday, and the odor is, it was very difficult to be there for any length of time. I met with the residents, and there is standing water, and the odor was really overwhelming. I know it's weather-related sometimes, but I did drive to Representative Vitale's office today. He was not there. Terry was not there. Terry called me later this afternoon. I did ask her to come here tonight. She said she was never in 17 years come to a commissioners meeting, that she was trying to be helpful, but she could not reach Mr. Vitale. Asked her to send us an email this evening prior to the meeting so that we would know if he would be able to attend any time in the future or do anything to help facilitate this for the residents. I did not receive anything. I haven't received anything thus far this evening. I feel that as a board, maybe the one thing that we can do is compel Representative Vitale to, he is the environmental representative from what I've seen through the years. I am a resident of this township, and he seems to be the environmental person, so I would hope that he would stand on that and take the cause of these residents and work, with the attorneys toward, a good outcome for everyone involved. It's very disturbing, as we all know. We go home at night to our homes, and it's our special place where we go to work every day to pay for our homes and enjoy the comfort of our homes. And I think it would be really important if we can, as a board, to stress to Representative Vitale anything that he can do would be helpful. I also like to thank Lori and Mr. Pannoni for moving along on this every time that I've called to try and help and do anything that they can and answer. And I know they will in the future. So that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry, I forgot to acknowledge Mrs. Murr's comments earlier. And obviously, it's between Mrs. Murr and the Honorable Jack Whalen. It's a lot of good information. Hopefully, those two groups can work together. Not to add on to that, I mean, I have a little bit of experience in the pre-hospital community. I have 36 years as a paramedic, flew 25 years as a flight paramedic with the Hospital University of Pennsylvania. So I know a little bit about Narcan and the usage and so on and so forth, but what you don't know is for every time a police officer is given Narcan in Delaware County, it's given 6 times greater by paramedic units. So it goes to show you how bad the issue is in not only in Delaware County, but throughout the country. So hopefully we can make a leadway. So, but thank you. I'm sorry I forgot to acknowledge you.
Can we just, thank you, Larry. Can we just take a step back and talk about what Jane said? How do we get,
What's our
we've
next
tried this
step?
before. I'm sorry?
What's the next step?
What's the
Are
next
we
step?
waiting
We've tried to
for-
get Greg Vitale to come here. I tried to get him to host a meeting here. Commissioner Mario Oliva offered the room here. I don't know what else to do. How do we get him to respond?
I
know
went to his office.
It just, to me,
I don't
it
know what to
baffles
do.
me that, all right, for him, he may think everything's going according to plan, and it very well may be, but we have neighbors here. Many of his constituents are here with valid concerns, and we need his help. We need his help to deal with the DEP, and as Commissioner Holmes indicated, maybe move these things out quicker to eliminate the odor, move things along faster. We obviously can't go on someone's site. We're not authorized to do so, nor do we have the power to direct them to do anything.
We don't.
Faster. But how do we move forward? What's the next
I
step,
agree.
as Commissioner Connell just said?
I agree. Of course, I've talked to Dave as late as a few hours ago. We talked, and you know, I've called Vitale's office, trying to get things moving. We understand the issue, and we're trying to do what we can. Run into a roadblock when we have, you know, when the DP's moving on this, and they have their standards that they go by, and they stick to them. And no matter what we say or do, we're not moving this any faster.
I'd like to ask, I mean, it's great if Representative Vitale can do anything. I'd like to compel the local DEP office to be here and appear before this governing body where the legislators are here. Let them explain to us firsthand what their procedures is, how they evaluate the corrective action plan, and give us the time frame in which they act. You know, the politicians, we can scream at him all the time if he's not effective. Let's go right, if they're the ones that control this thing, let's get them here.
Okay, we can do that.
I totally agree with that.
That's a good
Why,
idea.
why don't we invite him to the next work session, Mario?
We can invite him to the next workshop
Okay.
session. I will take care of that.
Or the
tomorrow morning.
commissioners meeting, it
Don't
doesn't matter.
invite the man.
Yeah.
I will demand, whether we get them here or not. I can promise you that. We will.
Strongly
we will take care of it.
Say, yeah, Dale and Leach is
Greg,
probably
I mean,
next step.
Mr. President?
Yes.
And if we contacted Dalen Leach, our state senator, if we're not getting, you know, he represents the area too.
Yeah, he's a senator for the, okay. I will reach out to Dale and Leach tomorrow. And the DP.
I think, you know, that it's worth noting, too, there is standing water there that they did have problems this summer. And it's...
Yeah, we had the West Nile virus
Yeah, and
issue.
it's disconcerting, really. It's quite unsettling when you stand at the property.
Can I just ask one more question with Dave?
Go ahead.
Dave, I don't know if you know this as well. When I was there, looking at the property, you know, go 100 feet out, I know some of that soil has been tested, but has the soil, I think that some of the residents had concerns about testing the soil that was closest to their backyards or in their backyards. Do you know if that took place?
I don't know the details of what's been tested.
And that's where the DEP would be helpful, I guess.
These guys
And you're, I'd like one, please.
That would be great. Can we hand them out? We'll take a little break, and you can hand them out, okay? All right, before we get started on the agenda. You can speak later. I promise. We just have a long agenda, and we've already gone almost. Okay.
You can take questions.
Yeah, we can't. I can't have you. I can't have you talk from the audience. Come up and just come up here. Yeah.
How do we, my question is, how do we prevent this from happening in the future? Maybe the township level will have more of a response than trying to get Representative Vitale or trying to get the DP to come down here. What steps can be taken so we don't have to come back in June for another development that gets started, and then we have to come back in November when, we have that lag? Is there anything at the township
I think
level
we
that can be
just,
done?
we just mentioned it for the DEP to come here. That's our next step.
No, what could be, I'm talking about another site. Let's say it's a site down the street.
State law. And I think what's
Something
that
that can be
process,
done.
once we get them here, we can start a process on that.
Oh, no, he's talking about if
I'm
this
talking
happened.
about,
Right,
Yeah,
so
no,
it
no,
doesn't
what-
happen
what-
again.
About a whole new
Yeah.
development in a.
No, I know. I understand what you're
Get
saying.
it.
What he
I
is
get
saying, what Chris is saying is that when we talk to them here, when we bring them in for this project,
Right.
we'll put together a procedure. Then if we have another issue at another project,
Come here right away.
we contact them and work through how we're going to do that.
that's part of the frustration that I hear from the residents and the owners, developers, is how does it get, and this is something I raised to you guys in June, how does it get this far? Well, now we're in November, I'm saying, geez, how did it get this far and keep going to here? Where we've got the standing water, the West Nile, when people said, oh, it's not contaminated, there's no standing water. And now we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So how do we stop this on the next one, when you've got this abandoned industrial rail with potential development that might not happen next year, 5 years, 10 years from now? Might be something forward-looking to be
Okay,
helpful.
we will take care of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
a good idea.
let's,
Our planning commission is very big on stormwater management. They need to develop more expertise on environmental issues as well in the planning stage.
Okay, we'll talk about
Planning
that too.
process.
Thanks. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for that.
That's a good point.
For that idea. We're going to take a short break here, and then we'll start with the regular agenda.
Thanks.
Shit.